Hello, everyone. Welcome to Boulder Startup Week 2020 and our event on appearance and credibility. I'm Kristen Limer. I'm the track captain for Founder EQ Track. And I want to start by thanking our sponsors. We have Techstars and Honey, Name.com, Downtown Boulder Partnership, and CU. And without them, this wouldn't be possible. And thanks to all of you who are joining us on the webinar. We should have time for questions at the end, so please use the QA option to submit anything you'd like to ask. I'm excited to introduce to you Allie Cole and Ann Liebman. I'm going to read their bios because these two women are incredible. Ann has always been passionate about fashion and style and considers herself a true people person. Helping others look and feel their best and bringing out their true style was something she knew she wanted to pursue in her career, beyond her vast experience in marketing and advertising. She believes style is personal. We all have unique personalities and lifestyles. Each day, you need to dress for a unique combination of events and happenings. Planning to tackle the day is more than just thinking about getting from one place to the next, but what you will be wearing for each. As a styling consultant, Ann looks at what you have, talks about what you need, and most of all, works with you to discover how you truly want to show up in the world, emulating that through a style all your own. So glad to have you, Ann.
Thank you, glad to be here.
Yeah, and then Allie Cole is a beauty addict, CEO, advisor, and investor. After 16 years at McKinsey, Bain, Harvard Business School, and Microsoft, Allie realized it would be a lot more fun to create a career aligned with her passion. This led her to join luxury brand group LVMH, where she spent 8 years creating, acquiring, and growing beauty brands. As SVP of Strategy and Business Development for Sephora and CEO of clean skincare brand Ole Henriksen, she co-created Kendo, the brand incubator reshaping the beauty landscape with brands such as Rihanna's Fenty and Marc Jacobs Beauty, and now advises beauty investors and brands. Allie is also a personal growth and wellness devotee whose quest to have it all ignited 14 years of studying and teaching with the world's experts in intimacy and pleasure. She founded Sensually Embodied, guiding women to connect to pleasure and reinvent what they see as beautiful, and using her own marriage and career as a laboratory, helps women and couples maximize their personal and professional fulfillment, cultivating deeper intimacy, passion, and freedom in all areas of their lives. Thank you for being here, Allie, and Ann again, and being willing to share your insight. So first, we're going to start with a poll. And the poll is to our attendees: do you think appearance really affects credibility? So I'm going to launch that. We've got some numbers coming in. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and end the polling and share the results. So it looks like most people think that appearance and credibility are related. So let's start this. Ann, would you share a little more about your passion for this topic of how appearance and credibility relate?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, starting with why I'm passionate about what I do, which is, helping men and women really up-level their style and truly show up in the world the way that they want to show up. And for those reasons, credibility, appearance, they are intertwined. I, about 4 years ago, got to a point in my career, it's, as mentioned, my background is actually marketing and advertising, and I've been doing that for 13 years, but I just got to a point where I was like, I know I'm supposed to be playing bigger. I know I'm supposed to be making an impact on this world. And what does that mean? And what does that look like? And then I really tapped into my passion for the fashion and style world. And it is, and I'll continue to say this, it's more than just a look, it's a feeling. And it's, when you feel a certain way, you're presenting yourself a certain way, maybe without even knowing it, because you feel like you're put together and polished, and what that means, and that energy you're giving off makes all the difference. So I think, just the impact that shift in mindset, just that extra thought, just goes so long. And yeah, it's exciting to see people really, make that shift and take that into account and really do something to improve and feel amazing about how they are showing up, and then thus being perceived by their audience. So.
Thank you. Allie, I'm going to throw the same question to you. How your passion on appearance and credibility and how those interact.
I think my probably noticing so much about appearance began because I'm an identical twin. And so there was just an unusual amount of attention on what you look like. And my parents were really committed that we would really know ourselves as individuals, even though we also had so much that was shared. So I'd say I started young. But really it was when I got into the business world. I was in my early 20s. And I went to work for McKinsey, which is quite a conservative consulting firm, if anybody knows them. And I was in front of clients who were much older than I was. And I really just became aware how much my first project was actually for a hotel in Hawaii. And so we were dressed casually at that client so that we would blend in. It would have looked really weird to be wearing a business suit in Hawaii. And I came to appreciate that it kind of worked against me because I was already young. So I kind of gained this heightened awareness that how I was appearing, a mix of ways of being and also clothing and hairstyle and mannerisms, there was a whole set of impressions being created. And who did I want to be at this time? And how could I use these various elements to my advantage? So both personally and professionally, as kind of the decades unfolded and all of that moved along, it's just something that I'm deeply passionate about. I ended up moving into the beauty industry, which turns out to be just an absolutely phenomenal industry for women. While it is to a certain extent about appearance, it's actually about empowerment and fun and connection and all kinds of things that really tie women together, and men too. I mean, these days, any gender can obviously participate and does. So just as an arena that could not only affect my success in connecting with people, having what I want, whether that's a relationship or success at work, and really having more awareness of all the different levers and tools, some of which are superficial, but a lot of which are internal. So for me, kind of linked all of that business path with an unfolding quest in the kind of spirituality, personal growth arena, really noticing and working more on internal energies at the same time as kind of working in the business world on a little bit more external. So I agree with Anne. I think it's very much a combination of the two. Neither one doesn't matter. I love the topic that we chose for this panel discussion because appearance is not nothing. It's not something, it's not everything, but it is something. So I think finding the right balance and having it be something that we can find interesting and be curious about, and something we have freedom to be experimental with. I mean, both Anne and I know share that, this shouldn't be some heavy to do or something like that. This is really about learning more about yourself and showing more of your true self, so that the life you create and the roles that you play suit you.
I love that. And maybe just to springboard and add a little more to that, because we've all heard it's on the inside. That's what counts is on the inside. So can you give some more perspective around thinking about appearance and what really matters?
Such a great question. I certainly am an advocate that it's important to feel good. Now, there's a difference between sort of I feel good when I'm in my Lululemon yoga wear or whatever because it's comfortable, and I feel good because I'm ready. I'm prepared for whatever the situation, whether I'm going on a date, I'm going to meet someone who might fund my company, I'm going in for an interview, that we're appropriate to the environment. I like to think of it as so that I'm not distracted, and whoever I'm meeting with or the people I'm meeting with, they are not distracted. That my outward appearance is aligned and attuned to the meeting I'm about to have, that I am having, that it reflects who I am and where I'm going, and that I myself feel present and grounded and available to be engaged and connected with whoever I'm speaking with, meeting with. I'm not distracted by anything, whether that's because I'm hungry, because I'm uncomfortable, because I'm tired, or I'm worried that if I move in the wrong way, my top's going to be too low cut, or my belt is cutting into my waist. So for me, it's very much an internal and external equation. The end goal is to allow yourself to show up, so you're not distracted and they're not distracted.
I love
Yeah,
that.
I 1,000% agree on all of that. It's really, and I said this before, how are you showing up for each of those events, experiences, happenings that we all have throughout our day, especially living in a place like Colorado when we've got the city hustle and bustle life in the city and then the mountain life. I mean, we could be going, from doing a yoga session on the top of a mountain at 6 a.m. to, pitching a pitch presentation at the office that you have to, just kick ass for. And those are two very different experiences, two probably equally meaningful experiences to you, but you're certainly not showing up the same for both of them. The core of who you are is consistent, but how are you emulating that? How are you presenting that to the audience so that you're being perceived in the way that you want? We all hear about and we talk about, what is your personal brand and how do you exude that and how do you put that out into the world and to the people that you're in front of. But I truly believe that we have multiple personal brands and it's the core that is the common denominator within us. But what we're putting out there, it translates into each and every experience that we're going through throughout the day. So internally and externally, they are just playing together constantly.
So Anne, I would from that bounce to this question on how we can balance how we're feeling internally with how we want to be perceived without being inauthentic.
Sure. And I'll just simply say on that, if you're showing up as you, it won't ever be inauthentic. So it's what you do with that you from an exterior perspective that can either enhance or detract from the core of who you are and how you're presenting yourself in that situation or experience. If you're you, that's authentic.
Allie, anything to add to that question on showing up and making the internal and external match without being inauthentic?
Yeah. This was, I think, one of the greatest learnings for me is that how we show up tends to often be really the result of our habits and patterns. So we've done it this way, it worked, we keep doing it, it becomes easy to do it that way. And so one of the things I think that's important for people to be sensitized to is how they're showing up the majority of the time often starts to become how they show up all the time or most of the time. So for me, I noticed as I became a more and more senior executive at work, and I was a CEO, I was managing global brand with employees all over the world and everything. I was so work focused, even when I was at home, that I was showing up as something that was true to me, a strong leader, someone who took my responsibilities very seriously. But that wasn't always who my husband really wanted to interact with at night. So, and that wasn't honestly who I actually wanted to experience myself as. So I think it's kind of important to recognize the distinction between habits and patterns and behaviors we use a lot of the time, and how do we consciously cultivate a shift? It's still us. It's not inauthentic for me to be light and fun, and it's not like that never shows up at work either. But there are definitely, as a woman married to a man, there are, or in relationship with a man, there are definitely ways that are not appropriate to bring in my executive role that are really great to bring at home. So I think this showing up question, it's not about faking it, but it is about recognizing that you can get into some grooves and changing your wavelength, changing your vibration, changing the occurrence of you for other people in your life, for other roles in your life. It does take some conscious effort, and it's not about being inauthentic. It's about remembering parts of you that you may not be using as often. And it may be hard to set a part of you aside. And this is where I think the external can actually help, because maybe changing your clothes does make a difference. You know, maybe just washing your face. How can you use your environment to support you in bringing all of you to life when you want to? So for me, this inside outside thing, again, this is where I don't in any way think it is inauthentic for people to switch gears and bring different energies. It's not about being someone who you're not. It's actually about remembering the parts of yourself that sometimes get forgotten.
I love that. And I was thinking, this was a while ago, we actually met in person, Allie. Which
back in the day.
I know, way back when. As we were talking, you identified small unconscious mannerisms that I had that were detracting from my believability. And so I was wondering if you could bring awareness to some of those common things that you see in people that really detract from that credibility.
Sure. And you know, in general, the things people do are unconscious things. So anything we do to become conscious, more conscious, is first and foremost what I recommend. So for example, when you sit in a chair, to uncross your legs and have both of your feet on the floor. Everyone who's watching at home could potentially try this now if you're in a chair.
Try it.
Maybe your hands come to your thighs. Both connecting to our physical body and connecting to the ground, which you know can just be the floor under your feet. Even if you're in a high rise, you can sort of visualize and imagine the solidity that's there. You're in your chair because of gravity. Can you feel gravity? So there's our modern world. We all spend a lot of time and attention above the neck, and so one of the things that gets us more present, which is the foundation for credibility and trust, is to bring some of that energy down. People trust us more when it feels like our energy isn't super concentrated. So that's one easy thing to do, is just ground your feet, you know, ground your sits bones into your chair, really feel your physical self and have the energy not just be in your head. Another thing is eye contact. And this is something that, you know, typically we either learned it in our family of origin or we didn't, you know, but everyone can practice this. And even if it's difficult, the ability to maintain eye contact is a very critical factor in credibility. I will offer you a little tip that even enhances credibility that much more. It's kind of how we take it from an unhealthy to what we call like a healthy stage. So the unhealthy eye contact is I am penetrating you with my eyes. I am working to, you know, I'm asserting my authority because I have this strong gaze. It also creates a lot of tension, and it brings a lot of the energy into my eyes and into my head. So there's a more receptive or relaxed way to have eye contact, which is I let you come to me. I look, in this case, at my camera, which is super freaking weird in this online world. Having the presence to not look at yourself, and even maybe to not look at the other person, because every time I look at you, which is my natural tendency to do, I'm actually not making eye contact with you versus when I look into my camera. So it's kind of weird in this online world. I don't want to stick on that because hopefully we're not in that world for too long. This receptive gaze, letting the audience, letting the landscape come to you. And part of why that enhances your credibility, because what is felt in the other person is that you're not only focused here, you actually have the room. And in a masculine feminine dynamic, which is where I do a lot of my coaching, the more feminine partner, whichever partner wants to play the surrendered role versus the partner that wants to play the lead role, the partner that is playing the more surrendered role needs to feel very safe. And so they feel more safe when the partner who's in the lead kind of has their awareness wide. So in this case, if you're in a business meeting, if you're pitching for funding or you're interviewing for something, you want to be a little more in that leadership role. And so it's very reassuring to people when they feel like you're not so concentrated right here that someone could be coming in behind you or whatever. So there's this receptive gaze that I really invite people to have. And it even invites your energy against what I call the back line of your body. So instead we get nervous, we get anxious, everything comes out the front. Can you let your energy and your attention sit a little bit against the back line of your body? It's a much more reassuring, confidence enhancing, credibility inducing posture. It also really conserves your energy. So you tend to slow down, you tend to take a deeper breath. I'm talking a lot right now, so I can feel my own energy, and it feels better to me, and I'm sure better to everybody else when my energy can drop. So those are just a few little things with attention, awareness, breath, and posture that will not only make a big difference with whoever you're meeting with, but they will actually make a bigger difference for yourself in feeling connected, grounded, present. Your memory will improve. You'll actually hear things more accurately, and you'll remember more of what happened with some of these tips and tricks.
I'm
That's
noticing a couple of
incredible.
questions coming through, and one of them is directly related to what you're saying, Allie. Sarah, you are asking, do you suggest not leaning into the camera?
I have kind of a two-part answer to that, or really I would say it's situational in the sense of that there's sometimes to lean in and sometimes not. I kind of use the throwaway phrase tips and tricks, which I actually hate because I'm really more about practices, fundamental practices. So the practice is feeling into the moment and what's needed and trusting yourself. And I would layer in something I didn't just say, but I tell my clients all the time, which is to just experiment, lean in. How does it feel? Do you feel more connected? Do you feel like you're making a bigger impact? Or do you feel like you're leaning in and you're getting really tense about everything? This is a dynamic practice. There's no black and white rules to it. It's quite possible that, especially if you're having, like, let's say a hardcore negotiation and it's time to lay the bottom line down, that it is time to lean in for a minute. There's a certain gravitas that you could bring through leaning in. Sometimes leaning in, you can demonstrate greater empathy and greater compassion that you're feeling someone more, and other times you're intimidating them. So you really need to feel into what is the energy I want to give in this moment? What is needed? And also to invite you to be present enough to your own experience to try it and see what happens. You know, you probably have time in any given interaction to try both and feel what serves the moment and serves your intention more effectively.
Hey, Allie, one time I heard from somebody the mirroring tactic, like you mirror what the person across from you is doing, if they're leaning in or if they're back, or if they're, taking up a lot of space or, together. Is that a thing, or is that something to keep in mind? I mean, essentially everything you just said is like, do what feels right in the moment and for you and try different things. But we also need to take in consideration the position of the person that you are in front of, and then what your roles are, right?
Yes. Mirroring, I think, again, is something that situationally could definitely work. I would suggest keeping it somewhat subtle, because when someone becomes aware that you're mirroring them, it's really strange. So I do think that, like, there's nothing, a subtle mirroring. So for example, if you're talking to someone and you notice that they look away while they speak, this is especially common in men. A lot of more masculine beings tend to look away sometimes while they're formulating their thought, expressing it. It's a way of ensuring that they don't get interrupted. Perhaps that is someone who can process better or even listen more without the direct eye contact. So perhaps when you speak, if you like eye contact, I wouldn't say spend the whole time not having eye contact, but perhaps you don't maintain absolute steady unwavering eye contact because you tune into that this person feels more comfortable with breaks in eye contact. So I think mirroring is appropriate. To me, it all fits in with that category we were talking about earlier of attunement. You don't want to be distracting. So extreme mirroring is distracting. If every time they change, you change, it's like that's, too much. But subtle things, and I personally find that eye contact thing, cadence of speech. Some people speak really quickly. If you start speaking really slowly, that could be really irritating. It's not that you need to speak as quickly as them, but having a range, being in the energetic range. If they're a big gesticulator and a mover, maybe you get a little bit more animated. You don't go to a place that's fake and phony, and you would never ever do. You don't match them exactly, but you don't go steady and still and be a stone with someone who prefers a more energized kind of discussion. They might think you're disengaged. So I am a fan of noticing and a form of mirroring. I prefer subtle mirroring, more of what I call attunement. Yeah.
Nice.
We have a lot of questions coming in, I see. Maybe we'll go on with our questions, and at the end, if we can kind of flow back and forth. Thank you for drawing attention to those questions, Anne.
So a lot of what you talked about was kind of wearing what's on the inside, mirroring. That's a lot more internal. So now I'm going to flip it to Anne and ask more about style. And I know for some, consistent style can seem really effortless, but for a lot of people, myself included, it seems complicated and time consuming. Are there ways to make consistent style more attainable?
Yes, absolutely. So I always say that style doesn't have to be difficult. The foundation of your wardrobe and of each outfit that you put on, it can be super simple. So think like the timeless classic essential pieces. For instance, I always say with a white t-shirt, which I'm wearing today, and a pair of jeans, which I'm also wearing because I didn't just dress for the top half. I've got actual jeans on too, because it makes a difference. With a t-shirt and jeans, you can create endless amounts of outfits. Again, the foundation doesn't have to be hard. When you invest in those foundational, timeless, classic, essential pieces, they're going to last you and they're not going to go out of style. It's what you do with that foundation that will create endless amounts of outfits. So for instance, I've got this white t-shirt on and it's an outfit because I did something with it. I've got my layered necklace and then my statement earrings. So it's not just a white t-shirt anymore. It's an outfit because I pulled it together with these certain things, and there's so many ways that you can do it. It's just a matter of starting to think about it. It doesn't have to be difficult, but you also have to be willing to put that thought into it each day in the morning when you're figuring out what that looks like for you throughout your day. It's a shift in mindset. So being thoughtful about what you put on and the outfit you create each day. And I've got kind of a guideline that I practice and teach all my styling clients. It's the core of how I do styling. Really, from my professional stylist perspective, there are 3 core elements key to incorporating into each and every outfit put together. And without just one of these elements thoughtfully and intentionally incorporated, your outfit isn't exuding its fullest potential. So we want to make sure we're remembering these 3 things. And again, it's just 3, but if we get that ingrained in our heads, then it comes more natural once we start to actually put the thought there. So these 3 things are balance, pop, and purpose. So I'm just going to run through these, and hopefully that can be a value takeaway for everybody who's who's with us today. So when I say balance, your overall look, is your outfit as a whole aesthetically pleasing to the eye? So the look, you know, and you think about balance. Are you, you know, if I'm wearing a looser fitting shirt on top, I'm wearing something a little bit more fitted on the bottom, so it's balanced. You know, you can do balance with colors. You know, if I'm wearing, you know, a black pair of stilettos, does my bag balance that out? Is that black leather bag too? You got to be careful with accessories. You don't want to do too much. You want to do something. I'm not wearing a ginormous necklace with ginormous earrings because that would be too much. I want to be balanced, okay? Pop. So the element you bring into your outfit that makes it interesting, makes you stand out, and is usually the most memorable piece of your outfit and your look. So it's pretty obvious what my pop is today. And if anybody wants to chat, but the earrings, right? So that's my pop. And you're gonna remember these bright red fringe earrings. There's so many ways to bring in the pop. And really this is what, like, again, creates the polished outfit look. It's not just a t-shirt and jeans anymore. It's an outfit because I pulled in this pop. And pop is the most fun. You know, you can kind of play with the trends that come and go. You don't necessarily need to invest a lot in those pieces because they're not the foundation that you're investing in. They're the pieces that you add on. So you can kind of have fun with the trends that you know are inevitably going to go out of style or not. So for instance, jewelry, it could be, you know, how are you doing your hair? Do you have bright red lips? Is that your pop? Is it shoes on guys? Is it, you know, they can have fun with their socks, their, you know, ties, so many different ways, bags, you know, jackets, that thing that just adds interest. Yep. And I see, what about makeup balance? Mm-hmm. Yep. So that's another thing, you know, if I'm doing a bright, and I'm not a makeup expert, I don't do a ton of it, but that's why when I do, it does stand out more. So if I'm doing a bright red lip, I'm definitely not doing much with my eyes. If I'm doing more of a neutral, then maybe I've got some more dramatic black eyeliner or something. So absolutely, that's a really good point. You can, you know, this I'm talking specifically about style, but it definitely is translated to makeup and hair and everything too. So thanks for bringing that up. And then purpose. So balance, pop, purpose. Whatever you decide to wear and however you decide to wear it, it's done for a reason, with intent, on purpose. So for instance, like think about when you wear a button-up shirt, like a button-down shirt. Are you buttoning all the buttons up, or are you leaving a couple open? Like, you didn't just do it, like there's a reason for it. Cuffing your sleeves is a big one too. I'll show you. So I've got different examples here. So this is a classic black blazer, and I am cuffing up the sleeves. And I'm not just doing it to do it, there's a reason for it. And the reason for it is because it's hard to see, but there's like a cool pattern lining in here. So I want to show that off. It's like got this cool flowery, silky pattern. And a lot of times with blazers, it's a different color that kind of pops. That could be your pop too. I want to show off my bracelet and my mountain tattoo. So I want my wrist to show. And it's been said, and I completely agree, that wrists and ankles are, this is women specific, maybe men too, very sexy parts of the body. So when you can show off your wrists or your ankles, do it. So this is an example of a wrist cuff. And then for jeans too, you know, I mean, depending on your shoes, if you're wearing a certain booty, you want your jeans to fall at the right spot. So I'm going to do a cuff, you know? So just thinking through like those things that you're doing, you're not just like throwing something on and like cuffing, you know, it's on purpose. It's for a reason. So balance, pop, purpose. Hopefully you guys can all take that away and start thinking through that and what that means for your outfit as a whole. And the even cooler thing about that whole core and model of the balance, pop, purpose, I think is, you know, in style and the outfits and everything I just talked through for our look, but also if you think about life, it directly translates into our life. And that's more maybe the internal piece of the contrast of the external. So it's not the contrast, the complement of it. So like balance. We're all juggling a gazillion things, right? So are we making sure we find balance with work, with our families, with our personal lives and our adventures that we're going on? And are we finding that balance? Because that's so important, right? And then pop. We each have our own individual pop. Like, what is yours? And are you fully stepping into that? And what could you be doing more with yourself in life to step into it even further so that you're standing out in that way that you want to be standing out in the world? And then purpose, like whatever you're doing, like, are you acting with intent, on purpose, for a reason? Like every action that you take, is it, is it with purpose? So I love that about this balance pop purpose. It's for the look and, remembering for the outfit situation, but then also translates so easily into life, and just remembering those 3 elements are so, so important.
I love that. Allie, do you have anything to add to that?
I mean, I love all that too. One thing that I was going to add, I think maybe it would fit into sort of your purpose. First of all, I see a question came through. Are we about our camera? For myself, I'm just using the camera on my laptop. I have no webcam or anything like that. I'm not sure what you guys. A question was asked about whether we're using separate cameras, webcams or something.
Yeah, same. I just have my laptop up.
Got my Mac.
Camera on that versus a separate webcam. Yeah. I heard a story once when I was in consulting about someone who showed up for a client meeting with a garment manufacturer, and their luggage got lost. And so they raced out to a store next to the hotel. They bought like the only, a suit from that store that was there. So they were so excited that they had pulled all this together, and they managed to make it to their interview on time. And the suit was made by a competitor of the client who they were meeting with. And as soon as, the interview, begins, and they ask about the suit, and the guy shares the story and how, but I, wanted to be here on time and everything. And, the interviewer said, well, I appreciate you taking the time to come and meet with us, but, this interview is done. Because they would never want someone who would choose to give business to it just displayed such an insensitivity to the client who they were, who they were about to go meet with. So you also have a purpose as far as, who are you meeting with? And in most cases, we're not meeting with a clothing manufacturer. So it's not like your clothes necessarily need to be, but to keep an awareness on that, if they are someone who works in the green or natural space, or that's the pitch you're making, even if you don't talk about it, maybe wearing something organic or whatever is gonna make you feel a little bit more on purpose with what that meeting is about. So again, for me, taking it, that not just how it looks on the outside, but what actually does it mean? And by the way, I mean, I'm sure a lot of the people listening, anyone who's under 30 is already demonstrating with their purchasing behavior and the brands that they're favoring, how much the what's and whys and purpose of the brands themselves that they patronize have to be aligned with their personal values. And so I would add that to, your personal presentation, your style, thinking about your audience that you're going to be meeting with. And is there any way that how you adorn or dress yourself can also be a piece of the goal of that meeting, perhaps?
Mm-hmm. Oh, Kristen, you're on mute.
There we go. I saw a comment come in asking about pop. If your personality is the pop, if you have a bigger personality, should you balance that with your attire or your style?
I saw that come in too. That's a great question. I think that there's always room for a pop in your outfit. And also then it aligns with who you are as a person. Like your personality is this vibrant pop, and you're showing up in that way. Like, why wouldn't you want to exude that with your look too? That would be my initial reaction. In order to be not so intimidating. I mean, on a webcam. Okay. I mean, are these earrings intimidating? I don't think so, but I don't know you and your personality. So,
Yeah, I think I agree with that. I feel like you need to try, bring an honest assessment to yourself. And honestly, I encourage people to even have the courage to get feedback. So maybe you start with just feedback from people who you really trust. It's not like you're going to ask someone you're pitching for funding to give feedback on your outfit or something like that. But I'm constantly turning Zoom on just for myself to look and see, how does this occur on this camera? Because we are kind of in a different world these days. And really making it personal for you. If you're one of the ones I manage, like if you have a very curvy body, you're not going to be able to wear the same thing as somebody else who has a very straight body. If you're, it's just going to have a very different effect as far as whether it's a pattern or something tight or something, just managing for those pieces, what pops. But I think getting feedback is always super helpful, looking at yourself and being honest with yourself. Like, you actually know the answer. If it's too much for you, it's too much. If you don't feel comfortable, if it distracts you, take it off. I read, was it Coco Chanel who said get fully dressed and then take one thing off right before you walk out the door. So, I mean, those earrings are great on you, and, having a bigger necklace, like you said. So I think people have better instincts in this than they think. And the one thing I'll say, coming from a decade in the beauty industry, most people can carry off a bolder lipstick than they dare to wear. I myself shy away from I don't wear much lipstick anyway, but like darker, bolder colors. And I always love how it looks on other people. And it's an easy place to experiment. Just make sure you blot your lips before you walk out the door or get on that Zoom call.
I'm going to skip to another question that we had prepared, because I think we've touched on it a little bit. And that's on multiple roles. So you were talking about an interview, but say within a day, you have an interview, an important meeting, a pitch, a date. And how does someone begin to think about preparing for presenting my best, or their best, most credible self? What does it look like to show up and be present? Those are all things that we've been talking about. And I'll throw that to you first, Allie.
I mean, again, I think we've been very simpatico on this kind of interweaving of the inside and the outside, and trusting your instincts. So, I mean, I'll start very practical. If I have a day of business meetings and I am having a date or something that night with my husband, I mean, I like to wear dresses anyway, but I'm much more likely to wear something a little softer. Assuming you have a range of items, you're not going to have time to go home and change. Maybe you have a blazer for work and you can take that off. I'm going to actually let Anne talk more to the sort of tactical, stylistic ways that you can accommodate that. For me, I'll speak more to the energetics and what I mentioned in the beginning of this call. And this is one of the things that takes practice and that I work with clients the most on, is how do I change my own energy quickly? It's like, in the space of, I'm super stressed at work, I want to have this yummy date. Like, how can I drop the stress and just show up ready for fun? And those practices that we used in the beginning. So if you have the time, I highly recommend, if you have, 15 minutes or more, you can take a bath is a great one, or a shower, wash your face, change your clothes, change as many sensory inputs as you can, because changing your sensory inputs really changes your state. If you have less time than that, put on a song that gets you pumped up. Music really changes your state. You can dance around your room. If you don't even have time to do that, you can go into a restroom and just do some jumping jacks or move your arms, move vigorously, get your heart pumping for at least 60 seconds. It's also been scientifically proven. There's TED Talks on this. Tony Robbins talks about this. I'm not a big Tony Robbins fan, but he certainly has helped a lot of people with their performance. Simply raising both arms over your head makes people feel more awake, more alive, and more confident. So depending on the time that you have, I highly recommend energetically changing your state, doing things that bring you present to your physical body and your feeling body. We do a lot of this, like, we forget we have a body. We sit in meetings all day and then we wonder why we just want to zone out, How do we wake up? It's not really changing our thoughts. It's actually everything you need. You have it with you. It went to sleep. But it's right there and ready to come online with a little bit of stimulation, which to me, music, water, movement, touch, all of those very tactile sensory things are the fastest way to change your state as you move from one role to another.
I think that is so interesting, taking it that side of it, because those are things that I wouldn't normally think about in transitioning from one thing to the next each day. So definitely going to keep those in mind, Allie. Thank you. From a more just appearance, outfit, mindset of what does your day look like, and what you can do to be prepared for that. Again, it's making that conscious decision to think about it in the morning. Allie's suggestions, taking a bath if you have time, dancing around your living room or whatever, awesome. If you're able to do that, great. A lot of times I think we leave in the morning and we're gone for the whole day, right? And we're not going to be able to come back and change anything. And so we need to be prepared for the day as it stands. And that's why it's so important in the morning when we're pulling ourselves together and thinking through what are those events and experiences and happenings that we have and that we know that we're going to be going throughout that particular day. And how do I want to show up for each of those? And then what does that look like? What do I want to emulate from my look, and then be prepared for that. So again, especially in Colorado with the weather changes, it's 20 degrees colder in the shade than it is in the sun. And, it can start raining for 5 minutes. You just have to be prepared. And so for women, it's a little bit easier because we carry around our big bags all day long with our laptops and everything else in there. So it's easy for us to, throw in a different pair of shoes to change into, or be able to, take off my blazer. And then all of a sudden it is just a t-shirt. And then, do I want to do the Vans slip-ons to do that, casual, cute, sporty look, or am I rocking the black stilettos? These are just easy things that when we think about things ahead of time, we can be prepared and have that stuff with us, whether it's in our bag or our car. I mean, something even as simple as, and this is practical too, depending on the weather, if it gets chilly and you don't necessarily know if you want a jacket or whatever, but also just a statement piece and accessory is a scarf, just throwing this on and it's in your bag, and all of a sudden your look is completely different. And throwing on a pair of heels for happy hour with the girls or date night or whatever, I would take these earrings out because they clash a little bit. So I'll just do that because it's going to bug me otherwise. So, and then, playing with, again, it's a t-shirt, but I had the blazer on before, so that was one thing, but playing with like a side tie, and then all of a sudden it's a little bit more fitted and you've got the scarf and you've got the heels, and then you're good to go for the next thing. And it was just like small tweaks, but it's a completely different outfit now, as you can see. So things like that, but it all starts with that thought process in the morning. And it doesn't have to take a long time. It can be quick, but just making sure, okay, what do I have going on? And then making sure you're prepared for that, and just having these things, ready and, for that transition for the next thing that you're going into. So hopefully that's a little bit helpful for some tips and tricks.
It is. I like that. Thank you so much. I know there are a couple questions coming through, and we can do the full hour. So if you guys are okay with that, going with questions for the next 10 minutes. We have a question on opinions for men wearing dress shirts with a button or two unbuttoned instead of a tie.
Yeah.
What do you guys think about that? And then let's see, I personally feel comfortable and confident this way, especially with a sport jacket, but I'm not sure if some employers see it as unprofessional.
So again, I think it just goes back to knowing your audience, and then once you figure out what that audience is, and I mean, it depends probably on the company and the level of the person that you're meeting with. Maybe, I mean, Denver, there's so many different kinds of startups and investor. Like, you have to be, you're the best judgment of what your audience is going to be looking for or expecting, I guess, and like showing up in your own way to fulfill that. So, you know, a button up shirt with the first couple buttons undone and a sport coat, to me, that is still very professional. The fact that you have a sport coat on, you know, the alternative is, you know, buttoned up all the way with a tie. Like, they're two different looks, but I think they're both still very professional. Adding that sport coat on, you know, definitely takes it up to the notch that I think it needs to be at, and you'd be fine with that, in my opinion. But again, it all depends. Like, if you're showing up for something on Wall Street in New York City where they're all wearing suits and ties, like, you might want to, you know, think about that a little bit differently, but you're the best judge of that, I think.
And I noticed, Allie, you responded on the profile picture question, but
no, I was responding to the button down.
Oh, to the button down. Okay.
Yeah.
So a question on profile pictures and what you guys think about those, whether they should be a casual selfie or they should be a professional shot.
I have an opinion. So I'll start. I think, again, knowing, like, what profile picture are you talking about? Are you talking about LinkedIn? Are you talking about your business profile page on Facebook? You know, because then that will tell you who your audience is, and like, who are you for that audience? And, you know, it all goes back to just knowing that and acknowledging that. And then who do you want to show up as for them? So, I mean, I would not do a selfie for LinkedIn, for instance. If on Facebook your audience is all friends and everything, and the selfie shows off your personality, awesome. If there's going to be a mix of professional and friends on your Facebook profile, I would not do a selfie. You know, just like using your own judgment there too. But I would err on the side of professional versus selfie in all situations if you couldn't decide. Allie, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, I was basically going to say the same thing. I mean, Facebook is maybe the one exception because it is primarily a social, personal forum. For sure, professional for LinkedIn or anything that you're doing for speaking engagements or, you know, that type of thing. Yeah, I can't imagine when a selfie would be appropriate for a business setting unless you have a tripod and you know, unless you're essentially taking a picture of yourself set up the way a professional would do it. Like, I don't think the picture needs to be so perfect. It just needs to look like it was taken, you know, front on, not at some funky angle, like not like you're trying to, you know, hide something or show only some aspect of yourself or something. I think professionally, something clean. Again, for me, I mean, you sort of hear this consistently. You're kind of looking to minimize distractions or minimize reasons for them to think, not want to meet you or think you're not a fit for funding or for hiring or whatever it is that you're pitching for. So keeping it clean and simple, I think, is best.
And one more question from the Q&A. I'm just going to read it. I'm confident in certain roles at work in the areas I know well, but I have a harder time preparing for new things, pitch events with investors. How do I align my confidence in these new places for me?
Allie, do you want to start that
Sure.
one?
Well, first of all, I'm a big fan of preparing. Maybe you have someone you can rehearse with. If I'm going to have a really important conversation, I always write notes for myself, and I might actually even mock it with my husband. I'm fortunate to have a very supportive and articulate partner who helps me with a lot of things. It's just good when you're going to be saying things not to be formulating them for the first time if it's an important discussion. So whether that's writing it down or practicing a few things. That being said, I'm not a fan of scripts or memorizing anything. I'm more suggesting so that you kind of get your own thoughts crisper and clearer than that you truly prepare how you're going to frame a whole sentence or anything. So preparing ahead of time and really figuring out what the most important points are, getting your own rough edges out of the way on an audience who's not the critical audience, I think is something that really increases confidence. Really knowing why you're there, anticipate a few questions that you might get asked and formulate good answers to those is another helpful thing to do. I like to do a little bit of research if it's a business meeting on who I'm meeting with. Do we have anything in common? Do I know any of the people they know? What might their story be about how they got where they are? It can provide, looking at their LinkedIn profile can provide some interest. I'm speaking more in a business context. I think people are pretty familiar with how to do this in a social setting, but you mentioned pitching, so we'll stay focused on business. So yeah, preparation. And then when you get there, be present. Take a breath. Don't be afraid to say you don't know something. That's an interesting question. I'll say this in particular for women, but everyone can do this when they get in a situation where they're nervous. Not to apologize. You got this meeting, so you deserve to be in that seat, even if it doesn't end up going through. Unconscious apologizing or kind of diminishing what we're saying is something that is a habit some people developed along their lives. That's a good one to let go of. I work with people on sort of training them out of that. I'll leave it at that. I know we're running out of time, and I'm sure Anne also has some things to add into that.
Yeah, just quickly adding on, in that situation, put on the pieces that make you feel amazing. You, like, whatever outfit it is, the heels, the whatever shoes, the blazer, the shirt, the statement earrings or necklace or whatever, the bright red lips that just make you feel like a boss. Because again, that translates into your energy, and as Allie noted, how important it is to be present, like that helps you there too. And even like subconsciously, you might not even realize it, but like when you're feeling good, you talk about feeling good in your own skin. Well, this is an extension of your skin, like what you put on your skin. So like put on the things that make you feel just boss and like, I got this. And there's, it helps kind of trick yourself into like not being nervous at all. Easier said than done, but it helps.
All right. Thanks, guys. I do want to share my screen in case you want to connect with Allie or Anne. I know, really, I've talked with you guys before, and I still learned things in this session, and it was great, and I loved it. So thank you so much for taking the time to be here and to do this for Boulder Startup Week.
Yeah, I was so happy to be a part of it. So thank you for pulling this together, and hopefully, everybody found some sort of value in everything we had to share. So appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks to everyone who attended. We really appreciate your interest in this topic, and we hope that we've created some new ways of thinking about it that really take it to some places that you relate to and that you feel like have value in your life. And I also popped my email address into the chat window if anyone wants to communicate with me. My website that's up there is an embodied movement practice primarily. So while you might find that quite interesting to go and look at, and you are welcome to, if you're interested in more coaching or services in the area that I've been speaking of more on this particular panel, then feel free to reach out to me. And my contact info is on that website too.
Okay. Thanks again, guys. That's it for this session, and I hope you enjoy the rest of Boulder Startup Week. Until next time.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.